Nigerians are pulling back on home internet subscriptions, hitting fixed broadband players like Starlink, Spectranet, and Fiber One hard. According to NCC data, active subscribers dropped from about 308,000 in Q3 2024 to 290,000 by Q1 2025, largely blamed on the 50% tariff hike. And we'll find out about that. And of course, rising diesel costs for operations. Meanwhile, mobile operators like MTN and Airtel are muscling into the fiber market with cheaper and more convenient options. So what's next in the internet service provider space in Nigeria's Nigeria's bruising broadband market? Kaide is saying investment associate Cardinal Stone Securities Limited joins me now. Great to have you in, Kaide.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. I mean, so give us a picture of what's happening and what is driving this. We're seeing the largest internet service provider, the second largest, and the third largest, first, second, and third. They all seem to be losing subscribers, the customers. What is happening here, and what is driving this move?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. So I think it's first important I differentiate between internet service providers and the MNOs. By MNO, I mean mobile network operators, and that's the space where we have the MTNs and the GLOs. But for internet service providers, telco operators quite all right, but they focus mainly on internet service, as the name implies, and that's where we have the Spectranets of this world. But what we've seen rather for the entire sector is quite positive. But to your point about the ISPs themselves, we have seen a decline in subscribers in that space, and this as a result of a combination of factors, one of which is cost. As you may be well aware, we have seen a 50% increase in tariffs for both voice and data usage, particularly data across board as approved by the NCC. And it will interest you to know that this has come into effect, and quite a number of telcos have announced price increases as a result. But what we are seeing in the ISP space is mostly as a result of some fundamental issues which has existed for quite a while. It will interest you to know that some of these ISPs are not exactly as stable or wide-reaching as the usual MNOs. MNOs like MTN, for example, have quite a very broad reach across all 36 states, and I can tell you for free that there's quite a number of ISP providers that only have network operations in a few states. And so as a result of that, and then sometimes as well, they are not as stable as the MNOs, partly due to the fact that most of these MNOs have had a huge capex head start, have invested heavily to roll out network. And so it goes to say that it was only a matter of time before these issues became to the forefront. I think the tariff increase was more or less the final nail in the coffin, so to speak. But what we have seen currently is the decline as a result of a shift to a more stable network profile, not necessarily a decline across the entire industry.
And I mean, considering ISP customers,
I don't know if you got that.
Yes, I can hear you. Considering ISP customer base, they're predominantly businesses, right? What impact do you see this having on operations and services of these businesses that typically deploy ISPs?
Oh, okay. So, like I said, it's more a shift towards from ISP to MNOs, and what we have seen is that as a result of the fact that most of these MNOs themselves have even started to foray into fiber optics just to ensure and guarantee that speed is available to customers when it is wanted, as needed rather. What the implication for business is rather as a result of this decline is probably going to be minimal, because as a business owner, for example, if you are on a Fiber One or a Spectranet and now you're considering cost among other things, and then you have this MNO that might not be as fast, but is essentially a more stable and more reliable network provider, I think the most reasonable thing is that you switch to the MNOs, and so I think the impact for them would be minimal as a result of this decline in subscriber base.
Right, so it looks like the MNOs are coming out on top in this situation, but we know that they also have their issues at the moment. You've highlighted some of that, but we're beginning to see some level of industry collaboration. What do you make of this strategy, especially in a highly competitive market?
Oh, okay. So for the increased collaboration, yeah, it was only a matter of time before it came down home to Nigeria, because if you check across Europe, India, and quite a number of developed markets, even in the US, where we've had telecommunications sector being in existence and going strong for a long time, it almost always gets to a stage where collaboration becomes the way to go. And I think it's partly because, number one, the telco industry is a very capital heavy industry, and rolling out of fiber optics and network infrastructure is quite frankly very expensive. And I've seen estimates of a cost to roll out 5G across the entire 36 states in Nigeria, and it's running into billions of dollars, right? And so when you consider the fact that these telcos delivers more or less the same services to the same subscriber, as it makes sense to you that at some point it's just best to avoid capex duplication, that some of them come together and roll out this capex together, and then instead have some kind of network sharing contract or agreement in place just to save costs on that front. And so I think it's a step in the right direction, because like I said, especially when you consider the current devaluation of Naira, which even makes capex rollout even more expensive, right? It just makes sense for these MNOs or telco players themselves to find a much business conscious way to deliver the same quality of services to their end users. And I think it's essentially good for the industry. And I think that's also part of why the NCC was also at the forefront of trying to introduce this idea or concept into Nigeria and make sure that we don't have redundancy anywhere.
Interesting. And looking at the ongoing collaboration, there's one that stands out, and that's between the leading one that has 52.48% and then the other one that has 1.72%. There are questions on whether or not this is the start of a relationship that could end in a merger, considering Nine Mobile, which has 1.72% of the market share, has been in quite a strait of late. So do you see this collaboration being the beginning of a merger, a relationship that could end in a merger? Or an acquisition?
It depends on how you look at it. I think it's, I think it's too early to call, to speculate as far as suggesting a merger. I think even if you go as far back as 2018, when the whole issue with Etisalat, as it was then called, started, there were also conversations about a merger. I think at some point, if memory serves, it was even rumored that they were going to end up with Glow. And so we've seen the term merger thrown around Etisalat, Nine Mobile again, for a long time now, but I think it's just best we stay away from speculation and focus on what we know as of now. I think for MTN, or rather for Nine Mobile, rather, as a result of some of the issues they've been having, they've been unable to, financial issues and even legal issues, if you will, they've been unable to focus or strongly on essentially things that would essentially that they should have been focusing on. And so as a result, some of their, if you check across now the industry, Nine Mobile has one of the most unstable network in the country. And so as a result, what we are seeing is a max exodus from Nine Mobile to other MNO players. And I think this is a step for them to curb those issues by at least partnering with the largest player in the industry that already has the reach, the network access, to essentially roll out their services for them, at least spending the time they are in a better position, and to ensure that their network is a bit more stable and reliable. So for Nine Mobile, it's a positive, because what that means is that their network will be able to be more reliable and more efficient. And meanwhile, for the MTN side of things, I'm sure it's there'll be some financial consideration or some consideration nonetheless. So as a result, I mean, it's just, again, like I said, collaborating for sector players to find a win-win for everybody. And then again, for the consumers themselves, they, rather than having a Nine Mobile SIM that is unreliable and unusable, now you have a Nine Mobile SIM, though arguably being used on MTN infrastructure, but it's one that you can now use for your day-to-day activities. So it's essentially a win-win. Let's focus on what we have now and not go too far into speculative territory. All right.
Hopefully the customers are the ones that benefit from this collaboration. Kayode is saying, Investment Associate, Cardinal Stone Securities Limited, thank you for your time.